Hey, how's it going guys? Jack and Matt here with the Toasty Bros, and today we got a really fun one for you. We have two equally priced gaming PCs, this one with the graphics card, this one with an APU, and we're just trying to see in 2021, when graphics cards are still almost impossible to get and they're super expensive, is it worth just going with an APU or still getting a graphics card?
But before we dive into that testing, of course, we got to hear a word from today's sponsor, so let's do that right now. Today's video is brought to you by GVGMall, an online marketplace to gain access to some really awesome discounted game keys and more specifically, Windows 10 licenses.
Make sure you use code TB20 at checkout to get 20% off your purchase, and it's really easy to activate Windows. All you have to do is take that product key they send you, literally copy and paste it, click activate, and boom, you have Windows 10 Pro activated, ready to go.
Link in the description down below will link you to Windows 10, use TB20, save some money, activate Windows. Don't let friends use unactivated Windows. It's not good. Don't let it happen. Goodbye. All right, so what we're gonna be doing real quick is going over each of these builds. This one right here being one that we built on stream over on twitch.tv/ToastyBros, so go check that out. And also this one right here, which is our legendary Walmart only PC, which I'll have a note on this one when I talk about it here in a second. But yeah, let's talk about each build, the specs, and then dive into some testing.
So for the first build, this guy that we built on stream, this is kind of like an upgrade in the future type build because we have a 750 Ti for the graphics card. Not a bad card by any means, but let's be honest, some of these APU graphics nowadays might actually be like on par, maybe better than a 750 Ti. But we do have an i3-10100 sitting under this, and it is an F, so you don't have any integrated graphics, but they're only like $92. And this is 4-core 8 threads. It's one of the strongest CPUs for gaming. For the motherboard, we have an Asus B560MA. We have a, I believe, 500 gig NVMe sitting under there. We have 16 gigs of Corsair Vengeance RAM at
it's like it's stupid 3600 megahertz.
Yep, 36. I remember doing that. 3600 megahertz. We have a EVGA BA series, probably 500 watt, non-modular, anything, all inside of this Beetroo case. Beetroo case. I forgot. Yeah, Beetroo has this giant. You know what? They're on Amazon now, so if you want to pick one up, they're really not bad. They actually use the tempered glass with the hinges, but this build is really good. But keep in mind, 750 Ti. This is the kind of build that you just really want something but a game right now at 720p, 1080p esports, and you're wanting to upgrade in the future. You know, in the future, you want to get like an RTX 3060 for this, a 2060, maybe a 1660 Super. But right now, though, this is about the best you can do for 750 bucks.
Now for this PC. Now, one thing to mention, this Walmart PC, we actually spent about $800, the other PC about $700, but the main reason, well, that it is going to be a fair comparison is because all these components from places other than Walmart would be $700 just by browsing around or less. So the main selling point with this APU is it has a 5600G, which is a 6-core 12-threaded processor, and is definitely a better CPU than the i3-10100. It has 6 cores and 12 threads, but the main debate is, do you want to go for something like this, a better CPU with no graphics card, or a slightly lesser CPU with a graphics card, and which one is the better value for money option when they're both the same price? We have the same 16 gigs at 3600 megahertz, which is, well, RGB, so look at that beautiful RGB. Of course, you can save money and not go RGB, but with this build, we got RGB. We have a similar 450 watt power supply. Obviously, in the other build, you would get a better price because Walmart had a weird thing going on, and this was the best deal I could find, so you can get more wattage for a GPU upgrade in the future. Storage, about the same, 500 gigabyte NVMe SSD, and then this is all housed inside this RGB case, which, again, you really don't need all these extra things. You can make APU builds as cheap as $600, but factoring in the fact that a lot of people want a system that looks really good and can perform really good in the future, we have the upgradability here to make a really high-end gaming rig. So what we're gonna be doing is diving into some testing with a couple of games, comparing these two, see what the numbers are, and then do some little bit of cost analysis and see which is the better option, which route should you go, and yeah, we're just gonna do some testing. Alright guys, now that we have these PCs all booted up and ready to go, let's dive into the comparison. Now we decided to test these two PCs in a couple of titles, those being Apex Legends using the firing range mode, we'll get to that here in a second, Forza Horizon on medium settings using the built-in benchmark, Back 4 Blood, and also Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now first up in Apex Legends, we used the firing range mode and we were playing at 1080p very low settings, and we ran through like the same mode where we basically slid down at the very beginning, shot a couple of targets at the same time, and then tried to gauge what the somewhat average FPS was. And the main reason why we did 1080p, for those who are going to ask, is because 1080p is what a native gaming resolution is in 2021. Of course, you can play at 720p with the 5600G and have no problem whatsoever, but I believe the 750 Ti should be aimed at 1080p low, so we're going to see if the 5600G can compete. And this is where we start to see a pretty decent difference. The 750 Ti averaged about 59 to 62 FPS. It was pretty rock solid at 60 FPS, which is a few dips here and there, and gives a pretty decent gaming experience. Now I know in the actual game you are going to see lower FPS because there's so much more going on, but for comparison purposes, getting about 60 FPS is pretty ideal. Now with the 5600G, as you can see, we only averaged about 40 and maybe peaked about 50 FPS, but we mainly stayed in the 40s. Now normally with the 5600G, I would test it at 1600 by 900 or 720p in Apex Legends, but with a 1080p low comparison, it looks like the 750 Ti comes out with the win. Next up, in Forza Horizon 4, using the built-in benchmark on medium settings at 1080p, the 750 Ti ended up averaging 42 FPS, but the 5600G actually beat it at 49 FPS. Very, very weird here, because throughout the rest of the benchmarks, you will start to see that the 750 Ti is decently better than the 5600G, but this is the one situation where the 5600G won, and I do have to think it has to do with AMD optimization in Forza games. AMD GPUs tend to do better in Forza, and it was by more than just a margin of error. 7 frames is a significant amount of frames, so that was kind of interesting to see. And next up, in Back 4 Blood, we used AMD FSR on low settings at 1080p using the balanced preset. FSR is AMD's version of DLSS, so we're basically running 720p and upscaling to 1080p to get, well, more performance. And this actually works on all hardware. It works on NVIDIA, it works on AMD. It's not limited like DLSS is. And with the 750 Ti using this preset, we got 68 to 72 FPS. It was pretty rock solid, but there were a few dips down below the 68 FPS mark, but I would say on average we're looking about 68 to 72, and that 5600G using FSR got a pretty locked 60 FPS. I would say each of these provided a really good gaming experience. Obviously the 750 Ti provided more actual frames, but the 5600G was definitely smooth, and if you are going to play a lot of games that support FSR, which at the moment there really aren't that many FSR games out there, that 5600G will have no problems whatsoever playing most games at 1080p low settings at 60 FPS. So that's really cool to see. But in terms of this comparison, it looks like that the 750 Ti comes out on top. And last but certainly not least is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and at 1080p on low settings using the built-in benchmark, we got pretty much a tie here. The 750 Ti averaged 30 FPS and the 5600G averaged 29. 1 frame per second really isn't that big of a difference, but if we have to give the win to somebody, the 750 Ti definitely won. But I would say in AAA titles, both of these are not great, and I would expect that because when you're picking up a budget graphics card like a 750 Ti, you're sticking to Rocket League, Fortnite, and things like that, and the same with the 5600G. So in recap, I think it's, well, pretty straightforward that the 750 Ti and i3 is the overall better PC, but when you factor in upgradability, the 5600G has more headroom. I could easily see you throwing in a RTX 3070 or 3080 with the 5600G, and it would work perfectly fine, but with the 750 Ti system, you're really not going to go much higher than like a 3060 without having to also upgrade the CPU. So apples to apples, if they're the same price, I personally would still go 5600G, sacrifice less performance now, and have a better upgrade path in the future. But if you're somebody who craves the most possible frames right now, the 750 Ti can still play most games at better results than the 5600G. So overall, I was pretty happy with these results. It was a little bit different than I expected. I thought the 750 Ti was going to totally run away with it, but it does go to show that the 5600G, when it has the right RAM and a pretty decent configuration, can compete very well with older generation graphics cards. So now we finished the benchmarking section in today's video. How about I bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick?
Alright guys, so overall, this video is actually a really good experiment because of 2021 and 2022 coming up, and honestly, if you had asked us this question about a year ago, we would say all day go at the system with the graphics card over the APU system for the same price, mainly because, well, this system for $750, you probably could have gotten like an RX 580 back then, maybe something even better, and it would have easily gotten like 144 FPS in every game, like medium settings. But right now though, these two actually go back and forth in a lot of games. This new APU, the 5600G being 6 cores and 12 threads, the newest Vega graphics, actually does really well for like esports gaming and stuff like that. The 750 Ti in some games pulls forwards by just a couple FPS, but other than that though, this system does technically have a slightly better upgrade path, especially when you just want to throw in a graphics card.
So if you want to pick up any of the parts from today's video, links in the description down below will be affiliate links and it will help us out. And yeah, upgrade path, instant performance. Which one is for you? Let me know in the comment section down below.
Alright guys, so if you haven't already, check out our other 2 YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/toastybros, and do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.
So hey, if you want to pick up either of these PCs because you really don't feel like building either one of them, we have just the place for you.
PCBros.tech is our PC selling business where you can buy this computer, that computer, and a bunch of other computers, and even laptops. Really anything you want that's PC related, come to PC Bros in person or online, PCBros.tech. See you guys later. Goodbye.